So I'm Rake Nichling. I'm the CTO for Send Payments. Send Payments is a global infrastructure as a service provider for payments. So it's a very regulated space. It's a space that is tightly monitored by the likes of Austrac and APRA in Australia, which means that we don't have a lot of freedom to make silly mistakes. Auditors will look specifically at how we do things using AI. I ended up subscribing for one Microsoft Copilot license. I started experimenting with it because there was the hype of what it can do and could do and will do, plus then also all the scaremongers saying, oh, it's going to be a big security risk. For me, it was important to make sure that, we don't end up on the front page for the wrong reasons. The reality is I didn't have it all figured out. I really had to learn as I go. So that's where I started with writing an AI strategy for Send Payments. And I started small. I started thinking about what AI could do for us in technology. And I have to say here, I cheated. I used ChatGPT. I gave it information about who we are as a business, what we're doing, where we operate. And it spat a wonderful document out to me. Like, honestly, it was like, I would say, even in hindsight, almost flawless, but it gave me the foundations, and I think you need to catch what I'm saying here. It did the 70–80% heavy lifting for me right there and then. Instead of me staring at a blank screen for hours, I was able to just start right there with a pre-filled template, so to speak, and I had to make a few tweaks. But the wonderful thing about that is it serves a little bit like an incubator. It just primes your imagination for what is possible. What I ended up with was something that was largely probably 90% right. I then circulated that at an executive level. Then I handed them theirs and said, there is yours, please own it. Talk to me if you need to, but write your own strategy. But then we all collated into one big document. We peer reviewed each other's. I had probably more crazy ideas to put in there, which they were probably a little bit more conservative. One key quote that I remember reading: plan for something in AI, and even if the technology or the ability to do it is not there yet, just plan as if it's there. And by the time you get there, the chances are that it will be available. And I can honestly say that that's been true. I had to get budget for Copilot licenses. They were not cheap. So I said, look, I want to buy 6 licenses. And it's for that's on top of the one that I already had. I want to expand the team by adding another 6 members in there. We're going to call them AI champions. So it almost ran like a competition where I put out the challenge to every staff member. I got them real excited about what the AI champions are going to do. So I explained to them they will be part of the innovation team. They will be getting access to AI resources, to licenses, to use Copilot, to experiment, to build, to showcase what they've done. But there's a catch. I need you to apply for the role. I needed to understand what their use cases were. And I was looking for examples and how they thought about how it might help them and how it will work for them and what success would look like for them. At the end of it, it was like, you're going to be trained, you're going to become the expert, so that people will start running to you with questions and not just come to me all the time. So that team, it was a trial that I put in place for 3 months. It was very successful. At the end of the 3 months, we expanded the Copilot licenses across the business. We also made sure that the same people in the Copilot AI champions also had access to ChatGPT. So we compared them as well. It's important with the emergence of all these technologies not to bed yourself down in just one. Explore them and see how there's room for multiple ones in your organization. I mentioned that we're doing ISO 27001 compliance before. Part of that process is when you bring on a new vendor, especially a high-risk vendor or a critical vendor, which means if something happens to that vendor, they go down for a day, your business is in trouble. You really have to have contingency plans for it. We've got a standard set of about 50 questions that we ask from these vendors. Now, you would typically have a full-time information security person there who would request all this information from vendors. A typical process might take up to a week. I started playing around with prompts, uploading the documents that have been provided, and then I started asking these questions, and I realized very quickly the responses that are coming back are instantaneous and accurate. At the moment, I've got a down pat that I can finish a complete vendor review. After I receive all the documentation, I can complete it in an hour. It's really saved me 1 FTE in the business. Hannah is our internal level 1 and level 2 support agent. We've grounded her knowledge on specific resources. We gave Hannah a personality. She's an Australian, she lives in the city. She wouldn't just throw a whole bunch of documents at you. She'll give you very specific information. So we've actually found that there was about a 25% reduction in tickets that are being raised in our ticketing system just because of that. I was sitting in our office one day and I noticed that one of our staff members in the compliance team was sitting with their headphones on, sort of isolated in the corner, and I tried to say hello and they looked at me but also ignored me. And then later on during the day they came down and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry I didn't say hello to you. I was reviewing these calls." And I'm like, "Oh, tell me about that." Due to the nature of our business, all our phone conversations are recorded. But then we have compliance officers that actually review those conversations for the quality. I thought to myself, wow, this seems like an interesting use case. Within 2 hours that evening, I sat there, I created an agent. The simple use case that I gave you then is, look, I just need you to summarize this. You're a compliance officer and I need you to summarize the main points of this conversation. And within 2 hours, that was all working. Blew everybody away. This agent, it's an internal only agent. We call him Barry. The account managers had real-time feedback on how was their call rated from a compliance perspective. And they immediately started changing their behavior. Let me give you some statistics. When we launched Barry at the start, the number of escalations we received per day, there was around 40 escalations per day. We've now, after 2 months in production, we now have about 6 escalations a day. When I was speaking to the team leader the other day, he said to me, "Rake, I looked at our pipeline and I looked at, our ambition to grow the business." And he said, "I actually feel the most comfortable I've ever felt in my life knowing that with the same team that I have now, we can double the amount of clients without having to worry about can my team handle it." And I think that speaks to itself. I love people and I love working with people and I want to see them grow in their roles. And if I can give them a tool, and in this case, AI, for them to be more effective and for them to have more time with their family, why wouldn't I?